This is Michael Popok, but look at the time. It's legal AF after dark. Abortion, women's rights, reproductive rights, gender identity are all on the ballot, along with the candidate named Donald J. Trump on November the 5th. How will these abortion issues, which are going to be front and center in 9 different states who have placed on the ballot right up there with the presidential decision to be made on November 5th, whether a woman has a right to choose, has a right to privacy in that particular state or not. And that includes a few states that I would characterize as battlegrounds and 2 states where a Senate position, oh so important to shaping our judiciary and the Supreme Court. 2 senators, one from Arizona and one from Montana, could use the extra help on the Democratic side that would come from people going to the polls to support women and their right to choose. We break it all down for you on Legal AF. Take a listen. Continuing the thematic for this episode, what can we do? Do something. And one of the things is abortion, women's rights are on the ballot in 9 states, key battleground states, including ones where Senate races are up for grabs, hopefully. We'll talk about how that may have some coattails to bring people in to vote. Talk about what the Republicans are doing to try to suppress the vote already and disenfranchise people, and how the Biden-Harris administration are continuing to fight for women's equality, primarily gender identity, gender equality on college campuses, and how they're being rebuffed by the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is on the ballot for November the 5th as well. Dina, turn it over to you. Kick it all off.
Okay, so here's what's going on and why we need to know about it. So as you say, 9 states have abortion on the ballot. The fact that the Harris-Walz campaign theme song is freedom, whoever thought of that was genius, because this is about freedom for women to make medical decisions over their own bodies. And it's happening in key states, as you say. Now, Arizona is one of the most important states. It's on the ballot. The 1864 law banning abortion was resurrected after Dobbs. And so it's on the ballot. And yes, it's going to help Mark Kelly. It's certainly also going to help the Harris-Walz campaign. Now, I grew up in Arizona, not from there, but I grew up there. Completely understand. Arizona was a red state, unlike a lot of the southern red states. It has a very independent, Wild West streak. People are do not like being told what to do there. It's maybe their defining political instinct. So telling women or people married to women or who have daughters or, wives, what they should do or not do over their bodies is huge. This is going to be huge on the ballot in Arizona in the fall. And it's just a matter of, the campaign just continuing to link that. But, the Republicans know this, and what are they doing? Rather than trying themselves to just get out more voters, they are trying to disenfranchise the voters in Arizona. And this is so important. The Supreme Court is, like you said, on the ballot in more ways than one. It's on the ballot in respect, of course, because the next president may be able to nominate one or more justices, but also because the Republicans, knowing they have a 6-3 majority, are trying to use the Supreme Court right now to help them get elected. We're seeing that in Georgia with the election board and them trying to maybe set up a way for them to stop the certification there, which the end result is kind of going to the Supreme Court. But even more urgently, here in Arizona, they are trying to disenfranchise 40,000 voters. The RNC is suing, saying that they are not properly registered. And kind of this has been an ongoing issue in Arizona. Arizona had tried to, the Republicans there had tried to pass a law requiring certain citizenship requirements being shown in order to register, and it conflicted with the federal law. And so back in 2013, when the Supreme Court makeup was different, the Supreme Court said, the state law can't conflict with the federal law. The federal law is the supreme law of the land. And so they had kind of a dual voting system for a while, where if you didn't have the requirements that the state law required, you could still vote in federal elections. And so this has kind of been ongoing. So the RNC sees an opportunity there. They're asking this Supreme Court to decide by Thursday, so that's tomorrow, decide very quickly whether or not these 40,000 people, as we know, Biden won Arizona by about 10,000 votes. So this is huge to decide, because ballots are about to get printed here. And so there is no time to waste. And we saw this in 2020. We saw a glimmer of this in 2020 because there were mail-in ballots at the time, which was new in a lot of states. And so anything like that becomes an opportunity for Republicans to try to stop people from voting. And I helped out in North Carolina. There was a lot of suits there trying to prevent people from voting because of some new mail-in ballots laws. So they're trying to stop these 40,000 people from casting a vote. And this is like what you said earlier, Popok, in the segment that we were talking about, how we need to win by a lot. We obviously, the Democrats have fantastic lawyers who are going to be arguing in front of the Supreme Court. Is the Supreme Court going to decide this differently than they did in 2013 when the makeup was differently? It's possible. And that's really scary. And that's why this get out the vote effort needs to really be massive. The energy is massive. But you have to overcome this really not valid, but this really obvious attempt by the RNC to try to disenfranchise voters. But again, the counterpart to that is the abortion on the ballot in so many states, including Montana, has a very important Senate race there, Jon Tester. That in itself, we've seen over and over these past years since Dobbs. When abortion is on the ballot, abortion wins. It brings people to the ballots, unlike any other issue. 68% of Americans think abortion should be legal. It's a huge and important issue for the country. And that's how, and Republicans know this. And this is why they're trying hard in places like Arizona to take away people's right to vote.
Yeah, that's a great synopsis. You got 9 states, right? You got California, Kansas, Kentucky, Michigan, Montana, Ohio, Vermont, and now Arizona, where that issue of women being restored to first-class citizenship in America is on the ballot. This is what we have to do state by state, since until we get control of the United States Supreme Court, a woman's federal constitutional right to choose has been taken away from her. Arizona, the Senate race right now, by polling, if you believe the polls, and I do now, if you believe the polls, Kelly's up by 1.6%, which is okay. It's better than being down, but he could use a little, oomph, a little turbocharging there, and I think the abortion issue will certainly do that. Jon Tester is down by 6 points in Montana, and every Senate seat is important for the Supreme Court and to confirm federal judges. So I want it all. I want, I want the majority and as many more over that as we can get in the Senate. We want that in the House. It's not enough for Kamala to get in with a divided government. In order for things to be accomplished, she's got to get in and sweep in on her long coattails all these other people and take these other branches of government if we have any shot at reshaping the United States Supreme Court, whether it's with more Supreme Court justices or changing fundamentally the structure of it. In any event, if it's going to be 9, we got to have the right 9. And she's going to get, whoever gets elected, this is back to do something. Mm-hmm. Whoever gets elected is going to have 1 to 3, historically will have 1 to 3 openings during their presidency. There's very few presidents that had 0. Joe Biden was on one end of the continuum. He had 1 in Ketanji Brown Jackson, and Donald Trump had 3. And so somewhere between 1 and 3, 2 is the average, and 2 can change the entire makeup of this particular Supreme Court. So you've got abortion on the ballot, and then as you said in the beginning of the podcast about what your takeaway was from the DNC, the energy of it, and if you were just like an alien from outer space that just landed with a remote control and turned on the DNC and was like, let me check out this party. Like, what would you see? You saw shiny, happy people talking about patriotism and reclaiming patriotism and being energized again with hope and freedom. And this is what the Democratic National Committee, the Democrats, stand for. What did you see when you if you just watched 20 minutes of the RNC with Donald Trump? Apocalyptic, dystopic American carnage. They have to scare the crap out of you to vote. They have to put Americans and pit them at each other and put them at each other's throats in order to win, because they're a very narrow party. I mean that in every way, shape, and form. They're not a broad-based party. They're not one whose platform appeals to the majority of Americans. It's not in keeping with or in lockstep with their values or their morals. And one of the greatest things that pollsters are saying about Kamala Harris is that she's currently polling at the equivalent of the unnamed Democrat, meaning when Democrat versus Trump is just put up in the polls, that Democrat without a name always beat Trump. Meaning the platform, the party, the policies of the Democrats were more popular than Donald Trump. It's when you put a name there that it added the baggage, suffused the baggage, like Biden had his issues. And so then Trump will be up by 2 points. Right now, Kamala Harris is the vessel through which there is a collective sigh of relief in the, you can hear it. You almost hear it in the streets. And they are rushing to her as if she were and I don't mean this as a criticism, this is a compliment. She is polling at Democrat neutral against Donald Trump. And that's all she has to do, because Donald Trump is so innately unlikable, untrustworthy. The presidency is supposed to be the role model for America's youth, right? Your children. And how can you hold up a convicted sex abuser, fraudster, bankrupt, 34-count convict, indicted 91 times? How can you hold that up to your children and explain that person is supposed to be your role model? Or as Michelle Obama said, you don't be small, and that's so unprecedented in every way. And of course, Barack Obama had one of the roaring laugh lines of the night when he said, "What is it with Donald Trump and the size?" And he made a sort of a sexual the size of his crowds. What is it there, man? What is wrong with you? Oh, you're weird is basically the undercurrent there. So what's on the ballot and calling out what the Republicans are doing to try to suppress the vote is in the name of voter integrity. They always have that Orwellian vocabulary, right? We're not suppressing the vote. We're not making it harder. We're just doing it in the name of integrity. We want every vote counted, but only the right vote. And only after it's gone through the grist mill of our lawsuits and barriers and all of that. There's a battle brewing right now in America that's right below the surface between democratically elected or Democrat Secretary of States that are generally in charge of election, and then these county precincts, which may be in control by MAGA, and in terms of vote counting and certification. And we're going to watch this play out. Believe me, there's an army of lawyers for both sides. I'm going to join the one for the Democrats. There's an army of lawyers on both sides who are going to be trying to sort out counting and certification. I assure you, this is not going to be easy for the networks, or even the MeidasTouch network, to announce the winner, because there's going to be all these delays where people try to throw sand in the gear and they won't certify, and we'll be missing big black spots on those maps that John King likes to use. And we haven't gotten the 32nd precinct and district in Georgia. What's going on there? And what's going on there is MAGA is trying to, that's why running up the score here is really, really important. And so your vote does count, because we need to not just win by 11,758 votes in Georgia or 10,000 in Arizona, whatever it is. We got to win by a lot and not a little, and leave this not in doubt at all, right?
Absolutely. And chaos is like their strategy, chaos. And they are the party of trying to make voting harder. You wouldn't be against mail-in ballots if you didn't want to try to make voting harder. And people have asked me, because we've talked about this before, like, what's the point of them trying to stop the certification in counties? Because Biden is president. Like, it's not like Trump is in office and it keeps him in office. Like, what's the point of it? And the point of it is to create chaos, to create distrust in the system, and ultimately to get it in front of the Supreme Court. Because I think that they realize that that is their best chance right now of getting into the White House, is getting the 6-3 court, to pull a Bush v. Gore. and get him in there, because they did him a solid with that immunity decision. I mean, Chief Justice Roberts, who evidently, according to the leak, was unwilling to compromise with the liberal justices, which is shocking because we've seen him, court watchers have seen him as like the reasonable adult in the room, and he was really unreasonable in that situation. So I don't know what he would do. Could he rein in the more extreme party? Does he not want to anymore? So they know that the game plan is to stop enough of the certifications, to get it up to the Supreme Court, to get some sort of creative argument that the Supreme Court is willing to take and give him. It's that SCOTUS coup that they're looking for. And, barring that, for there to be enough of a question, enough of a chaos for him to use it, because mail-in ballots, while completely safe and secure, was new enough in our country that Trump used that newness to sow the doubt and distrust and the January 6th insurrection. And so this certification stopping will be unprecedented if they do what they want. And they're going to use that opportunity to sow the chaos. And let's hope they aren't able to, have another January 6th as a result of it. But this is their strategy. The more chaos, the more it helps them.
Welcome back. Now you know why we named the show Legal AF. It's every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on this MeidasTouch YouTube channel, where you can free subscribe, and maybe you'll be the 3 millionth free subscriber. We're trying to hit that number before Labor Day. We have no outside investors. We're building this network by word of mouth and organically with your help. You can watch us. If you like to watch podcasts, you can watch us on YouTube, participate in the live chat, or you can just plug in Legal AF to any audio podcast platform, and we'll be right there for you. And then I'll do hot takes like this about every hour right here on the MeidasTouch Network. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok, and I am reporting. Heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.